The child never flinched, for all that the two at the door were head, body and shoulders taller than she.
Yes? You'll what? Beat me till I cry? Scalp me till I never dream of sitting again?
At this, Gerach, who was half hidden behind his brothers, roared with laughter, for these were words that were well known to him, for they had been in his mind when he was a child, but had never had the courage to come from his own lips, when he had suffered at the hands of these self-same brothers. At the time he thought naught of it, judging it as the frightened response of any child when faced with a brutish bully, but in later years he would remember long and hard the look in the girl's eye. Strong, never scared, cold. Come in, come in. You're as welcome as any at this house, be it man, woman or child, said Gerach. The girl, snow glittering in her hair like choicest diamonds, pushed past the two dumbfounded brothers and sat in the biggest chair by the side of the roaring fire, as if she owned the house, fields, beasts and barn. It was all that Gerach could do to keep his laughter to himself, for not even he would dare to sit in his father's old chair. Not only did Con keep the best of the roads to himself, he saw it as his birthright to have the best seat in the house, and he would fight all, kith, kin and child, if need be, to make sure that all stayed that way. But before he had a chance to tell this whelp of a girl just what he was going to do to her to make sure she knew her station in this, his house, she spoke again.
So, which of you is man enough to take me on my chosen path? And I'll tell you now that I mean to travel as soon as you've fed me a decent meal, which I trust will be soon.
All of this was said without the wit of a smile or a drop of a fear, for never, not in his wildest times, when his brothers had pushed him further than any man should have to endure with their wicked usage, would Gerach have spoken to Con so. It was all the more delicious to watch, all the better to savour, when it wasn't him who was going, or at least he thought was going, to get the rough edge of his brother's tongue and boot. For child or no child, no one had ever spoken to his brother in this way, and it was this, that no one had ever spoken to him without fear or a belly full of wine that probably struck him dumb as if he had never had two words of his own to rub together in the whole of his cross-tempered life. Finn, though blessed without a grain of understanding, could still sense that something was not right. Had not his brother uprooted trees to beat family for the want of a sixpence? Had not he himself enjoyed Con's temper and fists on no small number of occasions when the fancy had taken him? This child in his house, in his chair, talking in this way, was truly bile upon scorn. For all that he had not the capacity to comprehend what was going on before him, Finn, too, was beginning to enjoy the spectacle of his giant of a brother belittled by his own fireside by a strip of a girl.
Truly, I have stumbled upon a house of dumblings and fools, said the girl. Is there none of you with a voice in your throat to reply to me? I want to go to the high meadows today, before I do get much older. Is there none of you great galoots going to answer me?
Con found his tongue, albeit a pitiful small voice that now came from his lips.
You heard the girl,
said Con to Gerach.
Give her a meal, and take the mountain path, and you can take this.
And here he cleared his throat and regained his own voice.
This wretched witch of a girl from my sight.
The words were spat out in haste, like bad meat in a poor meal. This caused no small surprise with Finn and Gerach, but it was nothing compared to the astonishment that almost drowned them when the girl turned slowly and with a dark glint in her eyes and addressed Con thus.
Is it not the name of Con that is spread about as the greatest of the guides to all travellers on the high road? Is it not the name of Con that is used to strike fear in the hearts of young children when they resist the night and sleep is hard to find? Are you trying to tell me that this poor specimen of a man,
And here she pointed to Gerach.
that this is the great Con?
Her finger was still pointed, arrow sharp, towards Gerach, her eyes still fixed, unblinking, on Con's. Not a sound was heard. It was as if all in the company were waiting for something unspeakable, terrible to happen.
No, I am he,
said Con. Gerach heaved a sigh of relief as the child's hand lowered. For all that he was used to being talked of in this way to his face, this time it was all the more hurtful, coming from an innocent's lips.
Then you shall be my guide, and I will eat now before we travel. Be ready, for I will not have any further delay.
For once, the eldest brother did not protest. In fact, it was a beaten and broken man, head bowed, sat in an unfamiliar chair, who was cowed before this child. Little did his two younger brothers know, as they fed the girl, an uneasy silence heavy upon the air, that this would be the last time that they would see their brother. And here is a strange thing. Meal was made enough for all, but the child demanded more than all of the brothers put together, and she ate as no man 10 times her size would eat. And still she held out her bowl for more. More was made, and still more was eaten, until there was not a mouthful or crumb of food left in pan, platter, shelf or cupboard in the house. The meal finished without a word being spoken, only questioning, fearful looks passing between the two younger brothers as they served to her huge hunger. The eldest, gazing, seemingly eyeless, was lost to them forever. She stood, readied herself, and signalled Con to the door as you would call a dog to heel. She stopped in the open doorway, her fingers upon the handle, her hair once again bejewelled by snow. Reaching, without looking, into the folds of her snow-wet coat, she pulled out an old wooden plate, saying,
Listen well. Be generous in spirit to all who pass this way. Give them as they ask, feed them as they want, and you will have riches and food enough for the rest of your days.
She threw the plate to the table, slamming the door closed, locking the fire of the two remaining brothers' curiosity and fear in the house, as the plate spun noisily upon the table. There was not time to ask or snatch a farewell from the girl or their brother. They just stood, transfixed by the clattering gift upon the table. Outside, Con and the girl trudged out and onward, the girl leading the way to the top of the mountain. Curious indeed that the girl had come in search of a guide, and yet seemingly knew the way already. The only noise that cut through the roar of the wind was the crackle of snow beneath Con's boot. The girl moved without a sound and left not a mark upon the path. All of this would have caused him to mightily question this strange child, or could even have struck fear through to his bones, for he had never had to follow anyone in his life, not even as a child. But he moved, as if in a daze, each footstep grudgingly followed footstep, upward at the girl's unstopping heel. It was not until they were in the meadow by the far peak of the mountain that Con, as if waking from a dream, called to the girl to stop.
Enough! Enough! How did I come to be in this place?
His speech was still like those who have been newly awakened. His breath came in deep gulps, sharp, clear, cutting to the very centre of his body, blurring his sight in its steamy clouds. As he stood there, back bent, hands upon his knees, there was only a glimmer of recognition of the journey, the child, brothers, and a house by the crossroads. It was all the more confusing that this child stood